don't stay in your silo. Like, don't assume like so many brands, like, oh, well, men are not our demo. Try it, test it, or women 50 plus are too old for us, or we need to be like with the hottest, beauty people. What if maybe that's not like people want what they think they want? Like, it's really cool to have the hot women and promote your product. Maybe that's not where your product is going to shine. So don't stay in that silo.
Hi, everyone. This is Joshua Hoffman and Alex Garashenko, and welcome to another episode of the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast, where we deconstruct the why and how agency owners found their success, and in season 3, discuss how to build a community and referral network. Today, I have Sherri Langburt, the founder and CEO of BabbleBoxx, a full-service influencer marketing agency that brings innovative solutions to social media through their multi-brand and signature box promotions. Welcome, Sherri.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Josh.
So I want to start, and I want to go back to the early stages of your career, which I understand, and we talked about last time, had a kind of unfortunate start. So last time we spoke, you shared that you were actually robbed of everything you owned, and there was a lot that you actually learned from that experience. So can you share the story and kind of what you learned from that?
Yeah. So I think what changed me and my career was, I was moving from one part of New York to another, and it was the beginning of a lot of things digital. Not the beginning, but a lot of things weren't verified. And the movers drove away with my truck, but I had no idea. So everything I owned was gone. And I think that when you're, younger and living in a big city and starting out your career and like, oh, everything's going great. And I don't have to think about this and I don't have to think about that. And when you are faced with losing everything you own, it just changes you as a human being. And I will say that as rough as it was then, it changed me for the better because I think I grew up at 30.
Can I kind of just double click into that, and can you explain like anything specific or even general that you kind of learned that you said, oh, had that not happened, maybe I wouldn't be making those decisions a little bit better.
Look, I think that I hate to go back to stereotypes, but I think that when you're young and living in a big city and you're like, oh, I'm going to spend on this and I'm going to spend on that. And despite my parents are very, they're off the boat, very old fashioned. You should save, you should this, you should that. I didn't even know what they were talking about. No, it's fine. I'm young. And I think, and I see it with, younger people, like when you lose everything, like all of a sudden you're like, I need to save and so rather than going to my parents saying, "Oh," obviously they were like, "Could we help you? You have nothing." I didn't even have a mattress. I chose to rebuild back my life. And so I slept in a sleeping bag and everything that I bought was like earned. And right away when I got my next job, every percent I could put in a 401k went into a 401k. I still have the first bonus I got in a CD for years and years and years. I won't touch it because I think it just is a monument to I'm going to cry, but it's a monument to what happened all those years ago that made me really realize that, there's ups and downs and you have to kind of take things a little bit seriously.
I appreciate you sharing that first of all. And wait, I just want to you didn't understand you didn't share that detail last time. You put it on a truck assuming that truck was going to go to the next place and then they just drove off.
Well, so I'm going back a lot of years, but I was moving home for a few months to Montreal.
Huh.
And so it was a storage company and they were going to put my stuff in storage, but they charged me for 7 months. Every month I paid the storage fee. And then when I said, okay, I'm ready to come back, he's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but your stuff was gone. But I found out my stuff was gone right away. They made money off of me for all those months.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I honestly had never heard a story like that. So I guess for the next topic, I actually want to take another step back because you honestly shared one of my favorite stories about how you got that Weight Watchers job. So that was I know that it kind of is entangled with this story as well. But can you tell us a little bit more about that story of how you got that job?
So understanding that my career started out, I wanted to be a writer, but it started out as being a technical writer. And then the company that I worked with kind of taught me how to be a business systems analyst. I was the worst business systems analyst, but one of my ideas back then, because I had been on Weight Watchers, is how come it was a software company. I'm like, why isn't anyone making software for Weight Watchers, right? Before Weight Watchers Online, like Weight Watchers was so outdated. And I was like, someone should, a point tracker. No, that didn't exist. And fast forward, it was my obsession to get this job at Weight Watchers. So finally, years later, when they started posting that a .com had launched, I was like, I have to get a job here. I have to. So I literally wrote people every day. I applied for every position. I applied to be the email marketing manager. I had never deployed an email. I applied to be the head of content. I had never written an article. And so finally a position came up that was, general manager for Weight Watchers Canada online, but from the US. And I'm like, there's no one who's going to know technology like what I knew of technology. There's no one who's going to know the regulations of food and health in Canada and the French and all the complications there. Like everything just fit. And I knew the diet. And it was like, this is for me. So they thought I was a lunatic by then because I had been applying for a year. And so I took one of those caboodle kits that, people store their hair bands and elastics, the clear ones. And I was in Canada at the time because it was during that time I went back home and I filled it with junk. That was all only junk food you could get in Canada. Like, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank, like Aero chocolates and ketchup chips. And I locked it and I put a presentation inside and I said, Sherri Langburt holds the key to reducing points in Canada. So then they gave me an interview and I'll never forget the person who next became the CEO wasn't this, he was head of biz dev. And he was like, either you're like going to be the most craziest hire and biggest mistake we ever made, or you'll be our best hire. And so they gave me the job.
Has anyone
Amazing.
tried it? So I think that's amazing. And the reason I really wanted to ask about it is because I actually know a few people right now that are either don't have a job and looking for a job, or they're in a job and they're looking for a job. And they have just sent out how many different emails, like 100 emails. That's sure, like, well, especially one of them, she's like this Penn grad. She has already sold a company. So she's kind of looking for that upper, whether it's a PM role or something like that. And there's a lot of competition there. And she sent out 100 emails or plus and hasn't got in the response that she wants to get. So I think that lesson is so important because I literally after our talk, I said, email or mail them something, and like, it takes that a little bit of effort that I think
Something
does
creative.
But I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's so important. I do think it can still work today. So therefore, the question that I want to ask with that is, has anyone tried anything like that with you, or have you ever even seen it another time?
No, I do tell people to do something creative and it doesn't have to be that. But the funny thing is when you think about what I did, that's what I do now. That's the box.
Mhm.
I yes, duh.
And I did it. And someone brought it to my attention. Like, you realize that the idea that you did, and again, like when I did it, everyone was like, you're crazy. Like, they're going to laugh at you. And my parents were like, this is beyond, but it did the trick.
What was the inspiration to do that this time as opposed to just applying again? Like what drove you to that?
First of all, I didn't have tools that I have now, right? Like I didn't have like Zoom info where I knew I was guessing people's emails addresses. I was calling like the main office and I still remember her name. I'm not going to say the same woman was like, sorry, we can't talk to you, hanging up on me. She was never nice, even when I worked there, but,
Say the
but
name.
no, I don't know, but nothing worked. And so I was just like, this was literally my dream job because it married technology, Canada, which I was so passionate about. Like everything came together. And I was like, as a Weight Watchers member in Canada, I knew what they were missing. Like you'd go to these meeting rooms and they were like talking about American foods. And we were like, we don't have that product here, or like all these issues. And so, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I guess since you did talk about the box, can you tell us a little bit more about BabbleBoxx and who you guys help?
So we have all different kinds. So we're an influencer marketing agency. I say full service because we stay in our lane. We don't offer SEO and we don't offer email marketing. We only do influencer, very specific, but we do a lot with an influencer. So when you think about influencer and you say full service, people are like, that's bizarre. But, we do regular campaigns that are not a box. So any kind of influencer activation. We do our co-branded boxes, which are our BabbleBoxx, which are these themed kits that go out to brands. So they're multi-brand collab. So right now we have one for Super Bowl in market. We're gearing up for National Nutrition Month, and we bring 5 brands in those boxes. They go out to influencers. And then because of those kits, then brands started to come to us saying, well, wait a minute, could you do custom kits? So we do custom kits. I would say my favorite way to describe them is these hype kits. We send them to influencers, but now more and more brands are like, well, wait a minute, we could use these kits and send them to buyers. We could send them as loyalty program. There's so many use cases for the custom boxes, and they don't have to just be a box. Like someone just asked us for a piñata.
When you get those, sorry, all you.
I was going to say, for those boxes that you send, are they integrated into the influencers, for example, incentives for getting paid for promotion, having like information about how to properly post, like how like the influencer gets the box? Is everything kind of like ready for them, like knowing that if I promote this, I'm going to get an incentive for promoting it, and have that listed along with here's the tags I should use, here's the mentions, things like that? Like, does that come as a full package, or are there like add-on services? I'm just trying to get a full understanding of like, because I can imagine you're saying full service, there's a lot that goes into preparing for these boxes.
Yeah. So we're not a SaaS platform. Great question. So we cherry pick the influencers. They get assigned. We pay them. Every influencer is paid. So it's not just an affiliate model. We give them detailed briefs that they have to follow. That's the basic. Like, this is what you have to do. Add-ons, yes. Could we do whitelisting? Yes. Could we have influencers do ratings and reviews? Yes. Could we have influencers do surveys pre, post, during the campaign? Sure. We do all the reporting. We could do virtual events or live events if brands want that. So there are a lot of add-ons. But with the giving the influencer guidelines, like that's like our whole account management team handles that.
Okay. Great.
And you mentioned like sometimes now, you had your initial purpose of what the boxes were for, being sent to influencers. And then all these other ideas started coming. Oh, can we send it to these people and these people? When is that just a shiny object versus like a good long-term strategy? Like, do you have a kind of way of thinking there? Do you just say yes to everything, or how does that kind of plan work?
So great question. There's a bunch of things. We don't want to be a printing company, right? So sometimes a company sees us and they're like, oh, can you make us boxes? Or, oh, can you make us boxes and do the fulfillment? And we take those. We're not just going to design and print a box, because then again, that kind of makes us a printing company, and that's not what we set out to do. And we don't, I'm not going to get on a call and tell someone, oh, you have to do a custom box. I don't think that is the right. So it's expensive. It's a lot of time, and it might not be where you're at in your brand life cycle, like in your journey, like you might not be ready for it. So we'll be very honest with brands and say, no, you don't need it. I think when you say, like, is it a shiny object? I think that's why we try to be really intentional and creative with what we're providing. And then that's why you have to start thinking about some of the other use cases. Like if it's just for something, or sometimes a brand will say, can you just create us 2 boxes? What, we did that once because it was for like the biggest influencer of influencers, and it was a huge box the size of a person. But other than that, no.
I think you just answered my exact next question, but I'm going to ask anyway to see if there's anything else that you can add to that. But again, like you just mentioned, even prior to that you try not to get into other services. You mentioned SEO before, and now you mentioned printing. And again, maybe you just shared this story, but like, have you tried something like that and it failed, or you just were always so, you always had your blinders on enough that you knew your core competency and you never went in that direction?
Look, I don't know anything about SEO. I'm not an SEO expert, and I love writing email copy, but I'm not an email marketing expert. And do agencies reach out to me and say, hey, could we strategically align? I'd rather do smart strategic alliances, but I don't know if I think the message becomes very confusing when you start to say, we do this and we do that. Like, we've had a lot of PR people say, could we become your in-house PR person? And I think we have to stay in our lane. And, it's funny. So many people come to me and say, like, as I was growing this, and people laughed at me when I launched this, and what are you doing? And, oh, now they're like, there's so much competition. There's like 30,000 ad agencies in New York. So there's 1,000 influencer agencies or two. Like, if I stay in my lane, I know we could do what we're doing really, really well. And we enjoy what we're doing, and we want to provide the best value. And I think when you start to get all over the place, that dissipates.
Yeah, it's amazing how there's a lot of agencies that go they're very broad in what they offer, and that's their strategy for kind of, well, the client's going to need these other services. We're already providing this service, so we might as well get them for that service as well. But doing that, unless you're absolutely huge, but even then, you're not able to go deep. There's so many additional things that you can loop in and provide value for your clients just by going deep. And it's amazing to hear how you go deep with the box, because there is a lot to unpack, and that really positions you and BabbleBoxx as a as a trusted source, because you have that narrow focus, and I think it makes you easy to partner with.
Thank you. And I think also the trustworthy thing, like I don't want to be hitting people up like, oh, we have this and oh, we have that. We want, yeah.
And I have a standard question at the end that I'll kind of ask how you deal with those situations. If there's a service that someone asks for that you're not able to provide. But I'll ask that later. But the one thing I want to add to this that I have kind of brought up before on other episodes is I always call it the diner example, where a diner is going to have this huge menu, and usually it's not one or two things that's great. It's everything's like okay at best kind of thing, as opposed to
does a diner do that? Like it's baffling to me.
That's wild. Yeah.
I could get moussaka and then I could get fried chicken. Like I don't understand the diner.
That's a separate problem that I'm with you. But then there's the steak restaurants that they stay in one. No, actually you reminded me of something. There's a restaurant. You know what? I'm just gonna say, because I love them. It's Manioc Brewery in Philadelphia. They literally, they have an American menu. They have sushi, they have pizza, and they do everything excellent. So if anyone's in Philly, Manioc Brewery, doesn't matter what you get there.
I've never eaten there, I think.
Oh, they're the ones that somehow put like everything on the menu, but they actually mastered it all, which is...
My best friend lives in Philly. I just wrote it down.
Perfect. Yes, Manioc.
Maybe it's all sourced. Maybe they have vendors that prepare everything. All they got to do is bring it out.
Well, they did bring in like a sushi chef, and they have like a whole pizza. They cared about it, but I don't know enough about that.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually want to totally change course now, because there's a common topic between the three of us that I think it's actually kind of important to talk about, and that's that each of us actually had immigrant parents or grandparents that moved here, and sometimes had to start all over. Which obviously, growing up and seeing that, and you already shared some of the stories. But what did you learn growing up with immigrant parents that, I'll leave it there. So what did you learn growing up with immigrant parents?
Like, I'm going to cry, but just how hard you work. Like you just work hard. You just work. And work doesn't just mean like what I'm doing here. Like if there's something on my floor, like scrubbing that floor, or you just have an integrity and loyalty. But like my father always said, like your word, like all you have is your word. Like if a client comes to me and says we weren't happy, like take your money back. Like if you don't think I did a good job, I don't want to have that. Like I want everyone to know that we're working our hardest. And if it's not 1,000% great, then yeah. And I think hard work.
I think you mentioned in our discovery interview that your parents, when they came here, they couldn't get regular jobs, so they had to be entrepreneurial. What effect did that have on you growing up?
My dad was never home. So, and he's like, I'm like so close with my parents that you could feel so much love with a parent who's never, he worked, like he drove highways. He was never home. And Sunday, like that was his day at home. And that you could have that much love from someone who you see it, and the respect that you could have for, like, he just worked for us. Like, he's like, I don't need anything. I'm working for you guys. Like, and then my mother, like in those days, a woman really didn't have a voice, but like how a woman had 4 kids in Canada where the snow's up to here and no car because they were too poor to and manage the house with 4 kids, all under the age of like, I don't know, 8. I have 1 kid and I have a hard time.
Yeah, it's amazing where that kind of strength and just like, I guess like the gumption comes from, just like, yeah, we're doing this. We're going to move to a completely new area, learn a new language, pick up skills that we never thought we had before. I mean, I'm baffled at how my parents moved from Ukraine in '94, and both of my parents were attorneys. Like they taken themselves through school. My mom is Jewish. She actually couldn't get into medical school, so she had to find another direction there. So she had a connection. She was able to get into law school. My dad spent like 3 years just trying to get into law school and get into law school, make it, and then leave all of that behind to come here. To my dad worked night shift at a gas station, and my mom cleaned houses in the beginning and then worked at a dry cleaners just to get everything set up. And then they eventually created careers for themselves here in the tech space. But I don't like thinking about, they came here right around the age that I am. I can't imagine leaving everything with like I have a baby boy. I can't. It's just, but having that, seeing that like so much as possible, it just kind of, and it paves the way for like, if you want to do it, you'll figure it out.
My grandfather also came from Poland and had moved to Uruguay for a little bit, and then eventually moved to Philadelphia. And he started a company as well. And you can just see like the work ethic that he had. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this like on a podcast that goes public, but you know, Americans are spoiled. And actually, I forget who said this, but I really forget who said this, but they were like, it actually is lost after 2 generations. That like oomph or like that work ethic. Not to say that you can't be 2 generations and still have a good work ethic, but it's not really tied to like that storyline anymore. And I thought that was really interesting. I'm the 2nd generation, so I guess I'm talking trash on
But you
myself.
see, that's what the robbery did for me, because by the, again, I was the girl after 3 boys, and my brothers were like, she's so spoiled. She's so spoiled. And maybe I was. And that robbery made me, I was like, okay, I gotta like get gritty.
Oh, the perfect transition. So I wanted, thank you for that. I wanted to stick with family. And one of the articles that I read about you says that your dad taught you to stare fear in the face, and then your mom is who you learned to trust your gut. So I think both things are very important, but I actually want to focus on trusting your gut. And I think I shared a story last time we spoke, but how do you listen to your gut? Do you have any, do you focus on specifically? Do you think it's actually just natural to you now? Like, what does that look like?
I think that I'm by nature very intuitive, and I think that for so many years people told me, like with the Weight Watchers thing, like you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And if you have that intuition, listen to it. Don't listen to to the outside voices, right? And so it's like taking the outside voices and not listening to them is, I think, one of the biggest steps. It's even like you'll see it on social, like, why are you listening to all the noise? Or when I started this company, and people are like, there's one woman who kept calling me and really might want to come work with you, and she would always find a thing, and it's like the noise. But I think that it's something that you just feel, and if it feels like you should do it, you do it. I mean, with the exception of certain things.
What makes you emotional when speaking about that?
You're bringing up my parents a lot, so I get emotional.
That's fair. I didn't know if it was, it's something else there, but so, okay, I'll get off the parents topic. First of all, I really appreciate you sharing all of that. To get to, again, us being in this 3rd season, I just want to focus on, the communities that you're a part of. And the first, I think, naturally is your employees. So I just want to get a general understanding of how you can build a strong community between your employees, or how you do it now.
I look at heart. I don't look at where they went to school. The best hires I ever made are people who just want to work. I'll teach you anything. And if you want to work, like like degrees, pedigrees, fancy stuff doesn't, maybe that's pretty timely right now. I don't know. I'm a big Mike Rowe fan. And I think that it's all about, I always say this, like we have to row in the same direction. There was a point in the company where, and I identified like 3 types of toxic characters you can have in a company. It was very hard, and they've all since left. But the negative person who's just so negative that they pull everyone down and everything is no, no, no negative. The drama queen, that's everything is like, oh my God, and the manipulator, like that commission was mine. And for years, I had people like that on my team, and I kept them because I felt bad, and they were part of my team. And naturally, they all moved on. But when you have that magic team and people are just happy, like I'll identify if someone's unhappy, like, move on. Like, I'll help you find a job. Like, we're not saving lives with what we do. We're in marketing. Like, I feel like I work at Disneyland every day. And if you don't feel that way and you want to go be a teacher, there's into height. I'll help you become a teacher. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I think it's about if you have to be happy. I had one woman tell me over Christmas, it was bonus time, and she says, "You wouldn't even have to pay me, and I would come work here." So that's the kind of culture that, of course I pay her, but
So, okay, if we can take the salary out.
yeah.
No, I love that. I think it's important to highlight. And I guess the next community thing that I want to highlight is the volunteer work that you do, especially with the one-on-one business counseling for the Women's Center of Entrepreneurship. So I just want to kind of understand what that means to you and why you do it.
Again, I think that they always say, like, reach out to people and I was always too shy to ever ask anyone for anything. I think yesterday was the first time, I've ever done it, and it wasn't even for me. No one helps you. And so none of people help people. And if I could help people, call me anytime. That's who I am, and I'll help anyone. So entrepreneurs, specifically women, don't have a high success rate. They don't know how to get started. So that's one thing. We work with One Simple Wish, which is a charity for foster children, which we send them kind of like these candy boxes just to bring cheer to their life. But I think, any way that you could help other people, I'm all in.
I love that. Alex, any other questions before I jump into these last questions?
I think I'm going to have more questions as you jump into the next ones of how we work with other marketing agencies.
Perfect. So yeah, like I mentioned, a few of the questions that I typically ask at the end. If you had to teach something to other marketers, what would it be?
Oh my God. Don't stay in your silo. Like, don't assume, like, so many brands, like, oh, men are not our demo. Try it, test it. Or women 50 plus are too old for us. Or we need to be like with the hottest, beauty people. What if maybe that's not like people want what they think they want? Like, it's really cool to have the hot women and promote your product. Maybe that's not where your product is going to shine. So don't stay in that silo.
That's great. How can you work with other marketing agencies, or what services can you partner with other agencies? So in other words, what do agencies tend to reach out to you for?
All things influencers. So manage influencer campaigns, help do an event with influencers, help create a box with anything influencer.
And then the other way around, if a client asks, can you do this? And this is what we were talking about earlier, but and it's a service that you don't currently provide. How do you typically handle that request?
We don't get them that often, but truthfully, when we do, it's like we know other companies that we could go to. So if it's PR, we have PR people that we could turn to. If it's digital, we have digital people. But yeah.
Alex, did you have any questions on that?
I'm just thinking through what are the most typical services that you work with other agencies for that you don't do in-house? Like, for example, like, is there any editing or any type
Media
of
buying.
media buying? Okay, can you talk more
Yeah.
about that?
So a lot of times with influencers, you want to boost the content from their account. So media buying, and then you want to take that content and whitelist it. So turn it into ads or turn it into other things. And so that's where we'll partner with we have like a partner who helps us with that. Makes sense?
Is that partner specific to understanding how that works in the influencer space, or just understanding how it works on different social platforms? I guess, like, where's the specialty? Okay.
They are a media buyer specialty firm, but then they know how to do influence. And there's all kinds of stuff with influencer boosting, getting into their accounts and getting permissions, and then the rights and the tags. So yeah, happy to introduce you.
Yeah, they may be a good guest for our show because we haven't had someone that specifically focuses on that side of it.
I love him. His name it's Hack Labs. I'll introduce you. He's awesome.
Cool.
That'd be awesome. If you were listening to this show, what topics would you like us to cover?
Oh my God. Live stream shopping.
Mm.
Oh, retail media networks. Like retail media networks.
So
I
live
don't
stream
know.
shopping, like Poshmark Live type. You think
Like
like
TikTok shop. Like what it
yeah.
like I think that so many brands don't like everyone's been talking about it for 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone really actually doing this on TikTok? Like we don't have any of our brands doing it except for maybe one.
Yeah.
Retail media networks, I think, is just turning everything on its head. So I think those are two.
The TikTok
Yeah.
shop is blowing up right now. At,
No, but
and
I'm
it's
gonna
still
tell
early. Yeah, and people aren't taking advantage of it like they should be right now.
you. So my 12-year-old, and I don't know if we got scammed, ordered custom cell phone case on TikTok shop, put in our credit card, and it's not here yet. It's 2 weeks later. So what
I
is this? Like
guess
who is you could be buying from anyone and now they have your credit card.
my guess is that TikTok that their whole model has to be protecting that. My other guess is that anyone can sell on Amazon, anyone can technically sell on TikTok, and I think a lot of times these are people that maybe they're actually getting pre-orders, they're not telling you that, and they're just trying to see if they can get enough, and then they're ordering it. Or again, sometimes these are just little mom and pop, not even mom and pop. It's a single person in their house that
I
is like
agree.
selling a Chinese product or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's updated if you end up
Josh, it
getting
would be interesting. I think we have a little bit of time for this. It'd be interesting. So your experience on the Amazon side, um, and I mean, I haven't tuned into this too much, but there is live shopping on Amazon as well, right? People can stream.
Yeah, we did a
Um,
campaign like that.
okay, so are you working with influencers that are like Amazon sellers as well? Oh, that's
That's why I
interesting.
asked you about like there's TikTok sellers, there's
Hmm.
Walmart people, like that's the whole retail media network thing.
Interesting. Josh, have you come across that?
Uh, I actually don't know about the Amazon Live thing. So I come from the M&A space, and what we're really seeing are these people, the companies that just blew up on TikTok this year. And we call them TikTok companies that are just kind of made
I'm
for
gonna write this down.
to be shown on TikTok. There was like this little, I forget exactly what it did, but it was like this little, it looked like a pop, but it was something you put on your skin, and like you would rub, whatever, all the facial, whatever. But that was perfectly made for TikTok, right? Like it's great to show people putting it on their
Mm.
face, everything. It's got
I
a
s-
little
I saw
design.
a duck that you could make like you take cream and you put it in this duck, and now you have this big cream duck on your coffee. But anyway,
That's
sorry.
that's a TikTok product. No, anything that like can be shown off a little bit more, not just a blanket, and maybe a blanket is great on Amazon, but wouldn't be great on TikTok. So I will say, at least in the M&A space, and I would say any e-commerce business, especially if they think they might be a TikTok company, to really look at TikTok, because the sales we've seen companies go from 200,000 in sales to 2 million in sales in by the end of year just because of TikTok sales.
They're just posting stuff on TikTok from like their founder. Like who's posting the content for them? Like what are they doing?
That could be anyone, I guess. Some, I think the one that I'm thinking of, they actually do it themselves. But other ones they'll hire, either, whether it's a marketing agency or whatever. Same similar videos that are going to go on. Well, not really Amazon, but they're already kind of doing it for social media anyway. Like, let's get on TikTok because TikTok Shop is just blowing up right now. So,
And then just connect the product there. So you see the video gets some hype, right? And then you
I
just
can't tell
buy.
you how many sales.
So anything that's like an entertaining product that you can show off on a TikTok style
Visual.
video.
I think
Yeah,
I
anything
think the
visual.
cream thing was like you could see all the stuff on your face, right?
Not
It's
only
very
that, but it was actually like it was like a silly design. Like it was this. It looks like a push pop almost. And
Mhm.
because even just the look of it was like anyone could put cream on their face, right? But it was like literally the look of the product was different. And for that reason, it ended up blowing up on TikTok. So yeah, TikTok is, and I'll be honest, I don't see it cooling off anytime soon. I see that as like we're still in the ramp up phase. I'm trying to think if there's like another example of something that took off and then didn't really go anywhere after 2 years. But I see TikTok Shop or whatever it's called.
So Sherri,
On.
how would that work for your business? Let's say like you identify these influencers on TikTok, you have clients who have products that would be good for visual aspect. You know that the sale is going to happen on TikTok, right? Like how would you monetize it? Would it be like a direct payment to the
I think it
to
would.
the influencer?
No, it's a
Yeah.
direct payment to the the influencer on that side could take a cut.
Right.
Mhm.
And they would take an
Based on
affiliate, but we
sales.
still pay the influencer. So a lot of times the influencer's like, I don't care. I just want to know I'm getting paid for my work. It could be a
And
hybrid
you'd have
model
to.
where they get a cut. But yeah.
Mhm.
If
And
they
they
saw some of the numbers, they would ask for that affiliate as well.
Now we just need to
So
invent the product.
yeah,
That's right.
the product goes on the TikTok shop, the influencer markets it and links it so that it's right there.
Oh, yeah. So, I think that's the first time we talked about TikTok on one of these episodes. But who better to
No,
talk?
there was one other person we interviewed that went into TikTok more, but it's been it's only been
growing
two.
and blowing up. Yeah. A couple more questions. Are you guys looking to hire any positions right now?
I'm always looking for people. I like good people, but just good people. Nothing
Anything
specific.
that was
I don't
good.
know. Anyone in business development, growth, content. So I think one of the hardest things to find is someone who could create good B2B content. Can't find it. If I had to start another business, it would be B2B content marketing agency because it's very hard to find people to do that, get B2B.
If you're looking for like a partner instead of a hire, I think we have one or two that we can go back. The guests that we interviewed that are more
Yeah.
focused. So
There is actually there's one company that specifically focuses on creating content, and I think their niche is B2B.
that's right. So
Yeah, because the hard thing for us is when we do our content, it's like, oh, you're promoting a lipstick, but I can't post it on social or LinkedIn that, oh, look at this cute lipstick. I'm not trying to sell the lipstick. I'm trying to say we promoted this lipstick because they wanted to tap into consumers who were shoppers of Walmart, who lived in this area code. And it's very
So
hard to get.
it's like case studies essentially. You're
It's
promoting
B2B, like,
the results, in the case study.
or the intent or why. And yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you can go back and see who that was and
Yeah.
see if an intro
Good
makes
case
sense.
studies. Yeah, content paired with the right frame for a good case study that would resonate with those companies.
I think they talked about studies too. Last question and my favorite question: any book, podcast, or newsletter recommendations?
Well, oh my God. I listen to so many. So I love Mel Robbins now. Sometimes it gets like the loop. So it's like, I like Mel Robbins and I listen to the gentleman from capital.com or capitalism.com. He just teaches entrepreneurs. He has this whole model, like how to make $1 million, sell 4 products a day at $25. And if you sell 4 products a day at $25, you'll make $1 million at the end of the year. Again, I don't have a product to sell, but, I listen to everything. I used to listen to Mixer G all the time. There's another gentleman. His name is, I listen to all the top business books. I'm just constantly listening to business books.
These are all names I haven't heard of. Which
Really?
is yeah. So and anyone else on that side?
I think Mel Robbins is like the #1 podcaster in the world now. I think she says that she is. Maybe she's in a category she is. I don't know.
I don't think I know her. How to Stop Screwing Yourself Over is her
No.
big TED
No,
Talk.
the Mel Robbins podcast. She has the 5-minute, like the 5-second rule. If you don't want to do something, count.
The 5-second
Yeah.
rule and 5 habits. Oh, interesting. I will check that out. Not related to no, interesting. Awesome. Well, as we come up to the end of the episode, I just want to give you an opportunity to mention how people can find you and anything else you'd like to end with.
Okay, so you could find us at, you could just write to me, Sherri, Sheri, at BabbleBoxx with 2x's.com. You could find us across social. It's BabbleBoxx, so BabbleBoxx. Sometimes it's BabbleBoxx Official, but on any of our channels. And then I will end by saying that, like, the two of you, I feel like I've known you for like 20 years. You are the nicest, kindest gentlemen, and I just thank you and delighted to have had this opportunity and the chance to meet you.
We really appreciate that. That was very nice of you to say. The last thing I say before my last sentence is going back to my grandfather, actually, and the first ever business advice he ever gave to me. He said, just don't start a company that you need to spell on the phone every time. Yours is not bad. You just had, because you said the 2 X's. And I thought that was funny that you like, because you have to, and his company was Strain Optics, and he was like, just don't. So my first company was Game Plan. We made
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show and also sharing those kind words. And for those of you who've learned something new from this episode, please consider giving us a like or a follow so we can continue getting the highest quality guests. And as always, thank you for listening. Sherri, I had just as good of a time on this as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Masters in Marketing Agency podcast. I hope you got a ton of value out of this episode. And before we go, I just want to thank our sponsors, DevNoodle. DevNoodle provides marketing agencies with the ability to offer their clients unlimited website design, build, and management services with fixed monthly plans. If website design, development, and maintenance is holding your agency back from growing, please reach out to us at devnoodle.com, where we make websites easy for you and easy for your clients. devnoodle.com.